Hello, welcome and thank you for joining us for our on-demand session today on coping with COVID, being transfer agents during a pandemic. So we are a few folks from some Big Ten institutions. I'm Audrey Bonchack. I'm an associate director in the undergraduate admissions office from Penn State University. My contact information is here, as well as the contact information for all of us. So if you have any questions following our presentation, feel free to reach out to either one of us. Lori, I'll pass it to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lori Christensen, and I'm an assistant director in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So happy to have you joining us today.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Timmons, and I am an associate director in the Office of Admissions at the University of Iowa. We're very excited to meet you all today, and thank you for joining us. And I'll turn it over to you, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Bryant from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Kim. So we are, like I said, some representatives from Big Ten institutions. We have a group of us that has been meeting for the past several years. Each year we get together, typically at one of our institutions, if not in Chicago at the Big Ten headquarters, to just gather, to talk, to exchange ideas and just discuss different policies, questions, or just strategies concerning transfer recruitment, transfer applications, transfer students, transfer credit, and the like. So it's great to be partnering with these ladies today to deliver this session to all of you. So in a typical admission cycle, these are some of the things that might be happening, it might be going on. A lot of these happen to be in person. So think of a college fair, think of students coming on campus to get a tour or to do an open house with a lot of different areas from within your university or institution. You may sit down with a student one-on-one for an appointment. You may be going over their transcripts and conducting application reviews with them. You may be establishing those community college connections or working to hone those if you already have them. A lot of schools tend to go onto their local community college campus on a regular basis and meet with students, meet with the advisors there. And all of this really, no matter what size your institution might be, we are members of the Big Ten. Our institutions tend to be a little large, but really, regardless of the institution, if you have transfer students coming through your campus and through your school, a lot of these things are really common throughout any type of admissions cycle. But now we're in a worldwide pandemic and have been for these past several months. And so really, it's just a giant field of question marks. Now what? Specifically, we're talking today about the whole transfer happenings, recruitment process, but really so many question marks just in general with everything. So what we wanted to do today was just go through each of us as institutions and describe something that we have done to react to the pandemic when it comes to transfer students or our policies or the admissions or recruitment process. So I will go first from Penn State. One of the things that we established was we wanted to waive official transcripts. So the usual procedure that we have is we require all official transcripts from any institution that a student has attempted college coursework. So whether it's one school they attended or 5 different schools, we want all of those official transcripts to come to us at the time of application. That's what we need in order to conduct our review for that student to determine whether they're eligible for admission. But in a time of COVID, we saw that institutions both in the United States as well as outside of the United States, especially in those early months, were closed or were unable to provide a student with official transcripts. Perhaps there was a big backlog or staff just weren't in the office because the institution was closed and they could not provide an official transcript for the student. So we wanted to be a little bit more flexible. So what we did was we decided from a policy standpoint that we could waive that official transcript as long as the student could provide us with the unofficial transcript. Of course, that's after we kind of vetted the school and that particular situation. I'll get a little bit more into that later. We also made updates to our student information system to account for unofficial grades. We also updated our communication pieces in our offer letter to explain what those unofficial grades were. And then if a student did have their official transcript waived during the application process, we admitted them with unofficial grades and put the unofficial grades on their record. What we did was we said, we will still need the official transcript by the first day of class. So that was the new procedure we put in place for last summer and fall of 2020. So some of the successes and challenges with that. So the success number one is that we were able to provide more flexibility to our students and just be more transfer friendly. Because that's always the goal. That's always what we're trying to keep in mind, is how can we make things easier, more flexible, and just more transfer friendly. So this is definitely affording them additional flexibility in such a tumultuous time. Like I said, we were able to vet each situation. So students would contact us via email, explain their situation, and then we had 4 dedicated staff on our counseling team who would do a little bit of research and determine whether, in fact, the student could maybe get an official transcript. Maybe they just had to make the request online or contact somebody specifically. So there were some false positives. So a lot of students thought maybe they couldn't get it, but in actuality, they could. So then they could just go through the normal process, and it was real simple. A couple of challenges though that we faced was it was a bit of a heavy lift on the front end. I described having to adjust some policy with our faculty senate office. We had to make adjustments to our student information system, and that, no matter where you are, that's typically, it takes some work, takes some doing. And then the communication, just trying to make sure everybody who was fielding questions from students knew the new procedure and knew how to track the student appropriately. This was only for applicants, so it was not available for our continuing students who may have taken a course over the summer and just wanted to get that to transfer back to Penn State. So moving forward, that's one of the things that we'll have to explore to see if we would want to do that differently. And then I also put these false positives as a challenge as well, because it did take a lot of time. There were a lot of students who reached out with potential scenarios of, I can't get the transcript, especially our students coming from abroad, from international institutions. A lot of times they could get the document, but they weren't aware of that at the time. So again, it was a lot of time for our counselors to be able to do all of that research and establish what the real situation was going on. So that was Penn State and the policies that we adjusted in order to make things more flexible for students. And now I'm going to hand it over to University of Iowa so they can talk about the things that they did to make adjustments.
Thank you, Audrey. So at the University of Iowa, one of the things that we immediately thought of were our virtual appointments. As we all know, transfer students each have individual stories and specific questions for their situation. And so we wanted to ensure that we were able to still have that one-on-one time with transfer students to be able to answer those specific questions for them and their situation, as well as Audrey showed in one of the slides, that kind of doing some of that transcript evaluation or answering those specific application questions relevant for them. So we provided many of the events on that slide virtually, meaning large group presentations and things like that. But one of the biggest things that we did was we did use where students can still schedule a one-on-one Zoom appointment with a transfer advisor or a transfer counselor. It's a pretty easy process for students to do that they actually can go on our website and they can see our calendar, and they can then just schedule, and it automatically comes onto our calendar as well. So it's a pretty slick and smooth process for students to sign up. We have a couple different options for students to do that. So students could participate in one of our larger group presentations, and then at the end of that, there's a time during the group presentation that they can sign up for an individual one-on-one appointment with a department or with someone in our admissions office. We also have the option that they can do individual appointments with someone in the admissions office, or our departments and colleges across campus as well. They can do those individual departmental they worked really well for students. One of the biggest things that we have found is that it really allows us, as well as students, to cast a wider net for further outreach because there's no travel time. So one of the things that we have seen is that we have seen a lot of students outside of Iowa or outside of some of our contiguous states that would typically be visiting our campus for our face-to-face one-on-ones. So that's been very helpful to be able to kind of extend that outreach. Students have also been extremely responsive to this. We have seen large growth over, it took a week or two, and then after that, we've seen large growth in students that are signing up for these individual appointments, and many more actually than we've even had face-to-face or when we were on campus. So it's been a great opportunity for that. It's also, we've heard great feedback from students because they're able to get their questions answered on their time. And so that's been very helpful as well. And we've been able to allow students to establish connections with departments sooner also. That previously when we were face-to-face, students were in large groups with departments, and now it is that one-on-one. So that's been very well received from the students, but it is, as I said, a very smooth process. For the admission staff, they're able to go onto our website, as I mentioned, look at our calendars and get signed up. For departments, they do send an email to the admissions office, and then we schedule that, was how we initially did it. There are a few things that we have already changed since we first initially started these individual virtual appointments. So one of those things is how students sign up. So previously, students did have to email the admissions office and we would help them with signing up for the department or get that scheduled for them. Many of the departments have seen the benefits of these, so they have started the same process with someone within their college or department. So students no longer have that email exchange in between. A lot of times they can go directly to that department. We still have a few that go through the admissions office, but many do have the option on their website, and that's linked directly through the admissions website as well. We also found that during a lot of the large events that there would be departmental sessions, and there have not been, since we've started the individual appointments, there have not been as large of turnout or number of students signing up for the larger events because they really prefer the one-on-one. So departments as well as the Office of Admissions has really expanded the amount of time or what we have for individual virtual appointments. In fact, now our admissions office, it's directly linked to our calendar. So unless we are in a meeting or have a time blocked off, students can sign up for any time that is open on our calendar, which has really opened up that opportunity for students. Something else that we have found on the transfer side in the Office of Admissions, previously once a week, we did an overview of the University of Iowa or just an overview of our campus. We've now found, again, students really prefer those one-on-one appointments. So versus doing them once a week, we're now doing them twice a month, and students can still do the one-on-one as well as participate in those group activities. Thinking of kind of moving forward, because we do all know that at some point we will be back in our offices and we will be doing those face-to-face opportunities for students. However, what we have found, due to the ability both for students as well as colleges and universities to really cast a larger net, we do plan to continue to do these virtual events as well for that initial exploration and outreach with students and getting some of those initial questions answered. So we will be keeping the virtual option for our virtual appointments and potentially some of our events to have that option as well. One of the challenges or one of the things though that we are thinking about as we think about moving forward and continuing with virtual once we are back face to face is in thinking of kind of the intent of each of those and just ensuring that we don't have that overlap with our virtual appointments and our face to face or campus appointments so that students still have that value added for each of those and they can understand each of those processes and which one is most beneficial for them or which one might be an introductory. So we really appreciate and have valued. It's been a great opportunity for us to explore the option of virtual appointments, and we will continue those in some capacity and still exploring all of our options for what we want to do moving forward. But it's provided a great outreach for us to extend past our closer bordering states. And now I'm going to turn it over to the University of Michigan.
Hi, thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate that. I am just thrilled to let you know that the Transfer Tuesday event that we have at the University of Michigan was actually born out of this amazing Big Ten group that met every year in Chicago. And we all talked about different things that we did, different events to help transfer students. And this was one that just kind of took off. And many of my Big Ten colleagues now have Transfer Tuesdays at their institutions. And I was able to witness one in person when I was visiting with my daughter a couple of years ago. So that was really fun to do. So unfortunately, due to the pandemic, when it hit, we had just passed our February 1st deadline, and we had some Transfer Tuesdays planned for March and April. And we had to, put those on hold, basically. And we had our big program that we hold every May, which is our Transfer Open House. That program we had to cancel. So the Transfer Tuesdays, we decided to pivot and make it a virtual event. So we started to hold them virtually. Transfer Tuesday events, typically students will come in, they can go on a tour of the Ann Arbor campus, the central campus. Then they can meet with a credit evaluation team member if they bring their actual transcript with them or share it if they have a device. And they can sit down with them one-on-one, which is really kind of nice customer service. They hear an admissions presentation from one of our transfer admissions counselors in the office, and then they have the opportunity to meet with our campus partners. So if someone signs up, let's say that's interested in the School of Nursing, then we would let that nursing contact know, and they would be prepared to come and meet with that student. If they are a no-show, which sometimes happens, and then we would notify them that they are not there, so they don't have to make the trek across campus. So just a professional courtesy there. But we all work together. Our financial aid office, we do have the privilege of having them right in our building, right upstairs on the second floor. So their team is there and ready during Transfer Tuesdays to meet with our students and families to talk about paying for college and affordability. So they used to come down, and we switched gears a couple years ago and decided it'd be a little bit more personalized if the families could go and meet with them one-on-one. So that's what we did, and that seems to be really successful. So again, we had to switch gears and do virtual. So with that, in late August, the decision was made to actually change the name right now to Transfer Spotlights. And why this was thought about is that maybe Tuesdays aren't the best day because a lot of students obviously now are virtual in their own college work, and maybe that wouldn't work for them. So let's open it up and not limit it just to Tuesdays. So offering it potentially on a Thursday or a Friday, other days of the week. So we were able to do that. The show rate did improve, and we have over 50% show rate for most of those events that we have had, which is really, really exciting. And it just allows for a little bit more flexibility with those students. Our yield events, we are starting to admit students for next spring, summer, and fall currently, and those students will be invited to some yield events, which the staff are busy planning right now. They're hoping to involve our campus partners and really have one-on-one dialogue with our transfer admissions counselors to answer any of their questions that they may have or next steps that they need in order to decide if they're going to enroll at the University of Michigan. So our College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, which is our largest college, they do phone call outs every year. They usually come physically to our office and do that. This year, they will be doing it from their home offices and still be conducting those call outs for those students that have been admitted as transferred. So that's pretty exciting. I think the challenges that we have expressed that the transfer fairs at the community colleges just aren't as abundant. I think we all know that there are challenges with those. Sometimes if you're in the hallway and you may not see a lot of students, and sometimes some of the fairs are fabulous. So just we're seeing a lot less of transfer fairs. and the ones that are, we aren't seeing students. So trying to be creative and think of new ways to still maintain those campus, community college campus partnerships is really something on our radar right now. We do think that we will remain having virtual platforms. We have virtual campus tours that students can take. We also added, we pre-recorded virtual transfer sessions to take a team from 2 of our transfer team members, and they pre-recorded it, so it's available on our website, so any student can access that and watch that and learn about our transfer process at the University of Michigan. And then, they can follow up and ask questions to those transfer counselors that are reviewing their applications. So we love that. Again, I think Jennifer mentioned this too. It just allows for, a breadth, greater distribution, greater accessibility for students. So that is something that we feel is a huge success that we will maintain even when we do get to go back in person and start seeing our students and our partners. So thank you so much. If you have questions, feel free to reach out.
Hello, everyone, and thanks to Kim for sharing. One of the things that we typically do at the University of Wisconsin each year is that we hold a transfer advisor conference on campus. And so for this event, we would invite two-year college advisors, mostly from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois, to come to campus for a day-long event that consisted of information sessions from our schools and colleges and other transfer resources on campus, like our credit evaluation services team and our transfer transition program. We would also extend a fly-in invitation to 3 to 4 advisors from two-year institutions nationally. So it was really an opportunity to make connections, for advisors to learn more about our programs and our resources, and to give advisors an opportunity to tour campus. So for our fly-in advisors, we provided airfare and accommodations, plus some more personalized activities for a 2-day event. So again, it was a great way for our advisors to stay up to date on our offerings, and also an opportunity to show off campus. So this past fall, as we moved to the virtual world, there was the decision we had to make. Do we continue with a virtual event, or do we postpone? But we decided to move the whole event virtual. So we decided to offer sessions starting each hour over a 2-day time period instead of the 1 day. So I worked with our events team on format and sessions to offer. We basically held the same sessions that we did for the on-campus event, so those from our schools and colleges, as well as our other transfer resources. But one nice thing that we were able to do then was we were able to open up the invite to advisors from around the country. So I had members of my team work to update their contact lists with schools in their territories, and in the end, we were able to invite about 300 advisors from two-year institutions across the country. So really able to open it up beyond our typical Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois neighbors. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that we then learned about the event. The format was appreciated. We used Zoom, and advisors were able to attend all the events if they wanted to. There was no overlap of sessions. We had heard previously advisors would have to pick from 3 or 4 sessions during a certain time slot and may not have been able to get to everything. And so they actually like the opportunity of being able to attend every session that they wanted more information about. We also, of course, recorded all the sessions. So the advisors had access to that as well once it was concluded. Also, we were able to invite more advisors. And so what was really nice to see that we had attendance from some schools that, we may not have expected, or maybe didn't have that connection with in the past. I was also happy to see that, attendance was consistent across the 2 days. And during each session, we were able to hold a Q&A. So whether advisors put something in the chat or raise their hand to participate in person, they were able to ask questions. And I'm really happy to say that there was a lot of good questions and a lot of good participation in each of our sessions. Of course, drawbacks, relying on technology, right? Technology is great, except when it's not. Now, this is more my own personal piece. I did struggle with a little bit of my presentation part of it. But of course, I have a great events team and support behind me. I'm not a digital native, so the technology learning curve has been a little bit steep for me. But for the most part, everything went really well, thanks to our events team. Again, attendance was consistent across the 2 days, which we were very curious of how that would turn out. And so we had a good group of advisors attending each session across those 2 days. One drawback, of course, is not being able to have the advisors on campus. We would do a campus tour with our flying advisors. We would take them out to dinner in the evening and take them around Madison. And so, as my director puts it, there wasn't that opportunity to, kick the bricks, as we say, to get an idea of what it's like to be on campus. So moving forward, we thought this event went really well, a lot of good participation, and something that we really want to consider moving forward with in the future. We do like to have that on-campus experience, so maybe every other year we could do an on-campus and then a virtual piece. But again, overall, it went really well, and we do want to consider continuing this piece in the future. So now I'm going to turn it back to Audrey.
Thank you, Lori. And thank you, Kim. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate your input today. And thanks to all of you for joining us for our session. Hopefully you gained some good insight as to how our institutions have been coping with COVID. So again, remember to complete the session evaluation via the app for the conference. And if you do have any questions or follow-up, you want to reach out to Lori, Kim, Jennifer, myself, you can scroll back to our email addresses on that second slide, and we would be happy to be in touch with you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.